I know you're tired of the endless practice interviews or spending hours a day on LinkedIn and getting no responses, because just a few months ago, I was in the exact same position. That's why I created this all-encompassing guide detailing everything I did to finally get over the hump and land a marketing job. I'm Julian Myers. I'm currently an associate product marketing manager at Google. But when I was still applying to roles, I didn't find a single video that taught me how to ace marketing applications in extreme detail. So that's what I put together here today. And just a disclaimer, this is not an objective guide. It just covers my experience and everything I did to finally land my job. It doesn't contain any info relevant to specific companies. The advice is not tied to a specific company. It doesn't come from my experience from a specific company. But after getting rejected from tons of companies, I found that these prep methods helped me more than anything else. So if you want a marketing job at a small startup or a tech giant, stick around till the end of the video because I guarantee something in here can help you too. So I'm going to cover everything in 5 points. Know people, interview confidence, interview questions, personal project, and extra tips. We're going to talk about knowing people first because that's usually the first step in the process, but it is definitively the most annoying part of getting a job, and it's hard to actually tell if you're making any sort of progress. So what you want to do is build as many relationships as you can with people who are already in the positions that you want to be. Just message or email them like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I think what you're doing is really cool, and I have this to say about it. I'd love to have 15 minutes of your time to talk more about your position. And there you go, you got something to talk about. It's not a transaction, so you shouldn't treat it like one, because a genuine relationship is going to go a lot farther than you just getting whatever answers you think you need in the moment. It doesn't even have to be LinkedIn. Everybody thinks of LinkedIn, but it can be a mentorship. It could be an externship. And over time, as you build that network, you'll know more and more people at the companies you're applying for, in the industries you're applying for. Once you've established a relationship with somebody, it's a lot easier to communicate with them. So by then, you could send in an application and ask for a referral. Also, there are people on LinkedIn who literally dedicate their feed to reposting job opportunities and new job listings for new grads. So following these people just makes the job search a lot easier because there's a lot of roles out there and sometimes it's just hard to find and organize them. My personal favorite is probably Jade Walters. I'll put her LinkedIn up on here. But yeah, she reposts a lot of internships, scholarships, but most importantly, new job opportunities and internships. So go follow people like this and let me know in the comments other people like this so that everybody watching the video got somebody to follow. Now I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about what I do leading up to interviews to build confidence. So to get a better idea of what the company's looking for, I would say it just takes about like 5 to 10 minutes of research on the About Us page. Scroll through that and learn what the brand is about, the direction they're going, the company culture. Because if you can't tell an interviewer why you want to work there besides monetary gain or fulfilling a specific position, then it's probably not the right job for you. You should also do your research on the most popular products and services that the company sells, as well as anything recent that was big for the company. So let's say like you're applying to Nike, for example, you wouldn't be able to remember every single shoe drop, every single commercial, but it would be a good idea to head into your interview knowing what recent commercials came out, knowing what shoes dropped recently, knowing the athletes they're sponsoring, what they're doing for the Olympics, and stuff like that. These are the things that you should be able to form opinions on and discuss with your interviewer. The last way to boost interview confidence for yourself is to create an identity for yourself that you'd want other people to remember you by. And I'm not saying to make up a persona that you think is the perfect applicant with a fake backstory and to run with that, but I'm saying sit down and think about your backstory, your uniqueness, what you've gone through, what you've applied to, your experience. Think about what you would want your interviewer to leave and remember you by. So my thing was I come from a sports and entertainment marketing background, and those past experiences have taught me the importance of harboring fun and excitement and implementing that into our workplaces and into the work that we put out. It's really simple, but it does make you sound like a real person instead of just applicant number whatever. And having an identity to fall back on and pull from really helps in situations like that. And remember, instead of bending your personality to fit what you think they're looking for, just show them how your uniqueness, your personality aligns with the brand and could help it succeed. Next, we're going to talk about interview questions. In my opinion, the best way to practice for interviews is to write down every question you think you'll be asked and then write down all the answers and just practice running through those questions, answering those questions in real time. Because the best way to get good at something is by actually doing it. Personally, I categorize all the interview questions I typically get into 4 different categories, being behavioral questions, which are the ones like, tell me about a time when this happened, what would you do in this situation? Then there's what I call blueprint questions, which is where you're asked to create something, like create a go-to-market plan, create a buyer persona. Third is marketing hypotheticals, which is exactly how they sound. How would you improve this product? What change would you make to this marketing campaign? And then lastly, there will be personality questions that ask you things like, why do you want to work at this company? Or why do you think you're a good fit? These are really specific to the role and your personality, so I won't tell you how to answer them. But I think it's a good idea to write these down and practice these just like any other question. So for example, if someone asked you, why would you want to work for this company? Your answer could be something like, I really appreciate the vulnerability and transparency in the company, and I feel like the Yes You Can campaign really inspired me to keep pushing in pursuit of my goals and not settling for the things that I'm offered up front. Obviously, a super quick example, not that complicated, but the fact that I can reference a specific campaign or core values shows that I'm actually invested in the company. I keep tabs on what's going on, and I understand the impact of everything that they're doing. So like I said, what helped me was creating a doc and brainstorming every question I might be asked, starting with the really basic ones like tell me about yourself and why do you want to work for X company. As you do practice interviews and look up study questions, you'll find more and more questions that you haven't thought of, and these you can add to the list. Once you can't find any more, ask Gemini or ChatGPT for more questions related to your role. Add those to the list. You can go on YouTube and look for practice interviews that are related to the role you're applying for. If you find a good question you might be asked that you can't give a great answer to, you need to go ahead and add it to the list and practice it. And once you feel like your list covers everything, that's when you start filling things in and practicing your responses. So I would go into my doc and I would go to the behavioral questions and answer them all using the STAR method. This is something I didn't always use, but I realized a lot of interviewers actually look out for it and really like when you use it. Also, it's just really easy to collect your thoughts, organize your thoughts, and deliver an answer that flows and makes sense when you have some sort of framework to refer to. Make sure you fully answer the question, but don't be afraid to be yourself or be natural. It's marketing, there's no one right answer. You can add some emotion. We don't have to be the most technical, but we do need to know how to harbor emotion and get people excited about things. And lastly, make sure your answer kind of explains how you could thrive in the role in some way. It doesn't mean that every situation or past event that you reference needs to be related to marketing, but add some details about, how it helped your creativity or your discipline or your drive or something like that. Anything that shows you, anything that shows how you could be impactful in the role, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. The last tip about behaviorals I would say is to be very specific as you can be, because telling someone exactly what you did, exactly what you worked on, and its exact outcome is a lot more impressive than saying, I worked on this and it was good. Now I'm going to give y'all a few examples. These are just practice questions I thought of. These aren't from any interview or anything. So this is the question, practice question we're going to be doing. Tell me about a time you failed. And the bottom right here is my answer. The blue parts are the STAR method. I just highlighted them so y'all can see exactly what I'm talking about. Tell me about a time you failed. Sure, the situation was my class had just graduated. I still didn't have a job, and I applied to the Rockstar Games Fellowship. I was so excited because I just started my gaming blog. I'm on the esports team, and they're recruiting Howard students, so I was feeling extremely ready. But when I didn't get the job, it was one of the lowest points in my life. I thought I fumbled something that was meant for me, and my task from then on was to find out why I couldn't land any job. So starting out, I had the situation, just straight up laid out the situation. Notice my tone and body language up until this point. I'm really expressive, being really honest about how I felt. So this answer is a lot more effective than if I just, kept all that in and just said yeah, I didn't get the Rockstar Games fellowship, and I was pretty upset. That's not as believable. It's not as compelling. It was here I realized that some things I'll never be able to control. I can't know why I didn't get the job. I can't make up some experience to add to my resume. But there are a lot of things I can control. And it's my decision to make the choices that get me closer to that goal every day. So from that point on, this meant adding structure to my life and disciplining myself to set mornings aside to pursue career goals. So that would be dedicating a few hours in my day to things like applications and recruiter outreach, even if it didn't feel like I was getting any closer. So as a result, I'm in a much better headspace since I know I'm constantly striving, and I was able to secure an interview like this one. Notice how this middle part here about my personal growth is not necessarily marketing related, but it's still related to being goal oriented, being disciplined, becoming a better person, all things that are directly related to the role I'm applying for. Also notice that I'm being really detailed and specifying exactly what I did within the answer. So like, for example, instead of just saying my action was adding structure to my life and being more disciplined, I specified that I was setting mornings aside and dedicating the first few hours of every day to things like applications and recruiter outreach. This is the second practice question. Tell me about a time when you had to make a difficult decision under pressure. I can speak on a situation in advanced digital marketing. We were asked to create a marketing campaign with several steps and activations for collaboration between NASCAR and the HBCU apparel company, Legacy History Pride. Each team member was tasked with creating a campaign element, and it was nerve-wracking because we were actually working with the CEO of the company. Notice how within the task I'm specifying what made this situation so difficult and under so much pressure, just to make sure that I'm answering the whole question. I approached it by trying to build off what my team already had while incorporating the core competencies of Howard students, HBCUs, and NASCAR all together. My teammate had an idea for an apparel design contest, and I thought about how racing fashion is back in style, how Howard is the mecca for HBCUs, and how the homecoming fashion show always sells out. That's why I decided on the HBCU Motor Runway event, where the top submitted fashion pieces are showcased at the mecca of HBCUs at Howard. As a result, we ended up getting an A on the project and a class. Again, your result doesn't have to be anything special. If all you did was get an A and finish the project, then that's good enough. You're being honest, and that's a good result. Notice how in the action, when I'm sort of walking through my thought process, that really, tells the interviewer that what I did was effective and made sense, instead of just saying, yeah, I had this idea for the project and it got us an A. So I'd keep gathering these questions, writing down answers, running through them in the mirror, doing practice interviews with friends and asking them to ask me these questions along with some random questions. The point of this isn't just to memorize your answers. The point of this is more so to, have those experiences and those situations fresh in your mind so that you can easily pick from them and easily remember all your talking points with the STAR method. One of the best ways I would test myself was having my sheet and giving it to a friend and just telling them to ask me a random one on there. And if I didn't give a great answer with a STAR method, it was time to get back to work. The next type of question that I want to go over are blueprint questions, where you're asked to create something. I think these type of questions are in a lot of different types of interviews. For example, if I was interviewing to be like a financial analyst, maybe they would ask me to make a budget sheet or like an income statement or something like that. In my experience, building a go-to-market plan was an extremely common question for me. I think mainly because I applied to a lot of product marketing roles. If you think of a blueprint question you might be asked and you're not that comfortable answering it, go to YouTube, type in that same question, and find a method or process that you really like and you think you could use. Or you could create your own method. It really doesn't matter, but the whole point I'm trying to get at is these questions where you have a big ask, like you have to create something brand new. They can be really daunting, and having a plan of attack can be a lot more calming and effective than going into these questions with a whole different method, a whole different process each and every time. This YouTuber, Henry Wang, he has a method for go-to-market strategies, and I love it. So now if anybody ever asks me to create a go-to-market strategy, I literally just think of, the template, the process that he used, and I replicate it for my current situation. It might seem complicated, but it's super simple. Let's try a practice problem. Okay, so this is the practice question we'll be using. We're releasing a video game where players explore different planets and build civilizations. How would you bring it to market? So instantly when I hear bring it to market or go to market, I'm thinking of objective, KPI, timeline, resource, activity, and channel. So we'll start with pre-launch. I would say my objective here is to raise awareness and to build community. The KPI, I would say 50,000 pre-registered users since it's a brand new game. And the timeline, let's say I want this pre-launch timeline to be executed in 2 months. So how can I raise awareness and build community around the game to get 50K pre-registered? At the top of my head, I would start with a Reddit account to get people excited about the game and like sort of build a community. Another marketing channel I would use is a developer blog so that people can get to know the developers, build a connection with them, and just learn more about what they think of different parts of the game. And then lastly, a YouTube channel to show off visuals and features of the game. My last channel I would add is a beta test because this will require users to pre-register and would also give them a taste of the game. These are all free social media sites that any social media manager or employee could run. So I'm going to say all these are in-house resources. That was pre-launch. We're done with that. And now we can do the exact same thing for the launch stage. My objective will be to drive adoption. So to get people to use the product as well as converting beta testers. My KPI will be 300K users in the first week. And the timeline for the launch marketing will be 1 week. My first channel will be paid ads so that when people are searching for an open world exploration game on Google, our game pops up. Also on the PlayStation Store. Second channel I'll do is organic marketing channels so that Reddit, blog, and YouTube channel I talked about earlier will still be posting on those, talking about updates, announcing new trailers for new seasons and things like that. And third is a launch week event. So during the first week of release, we'll have a special planet available to explore with exclusive cutscenes and rewards. And then lastly, sponsoring content creators to live stream gameplay and create other types of content promoting the game. As for the resources for paid ads, this might not technically be right, but I'll do in-house since we'll be paying for the ads. The organic channels are still in-house because we run those socials. Third, the launch week event, that is also in-house because, or I guess maybe like programmers could be a resource to create whatever type of live event or special event will be available for 1 week. And lastly, content creators are a resource because they will be showing our game to thousands, hopefully millions of people and playing it in front of them. And now we've done all the hard work. We can finally close it out with post-launch plan. My objective will be to optimize gameplay and invest more into the popular parts of the game. My KPI will be averaging 50K concurrent players. And the timeline will be over 3 months. My first channel will be email, so I can release surveys and ask players what missions and planets they do and don't enjoy. Next are my organic channels, so I'll scale up the most successful ones and also begin implementing short form content on IG and TikTok. All we did was remember that original method, that original process that will help us create a go-to-market plan, being a KPI, objective, timeline, channel, activity, and resource. And again, you do not have to do this the same way as me. I just recommend finding out which blueprint questions you think you'll be asked, and then going into the interview with a plan of attack on how to answer those questions so you're not caught off guard. The third type of questions I'll cover are marketing hypotheticals, and they're pretty much how they sound. Questions like, how would you improve this marketing campaign? When I get a question like this, I think about anything that would determine my answer, any key factors, and I write those down, but I also speak them out loud and talk through my thought process so that the interviewer knows exactly where I'm going with my idea. Because while I'm writing down keywords like target markets or demographics, it's not only helping me, get closer to my final answer, but it also gives time for me to explain myself instead of just sitting here not talking and having the interviewer wondering what I'm doing. Writing things down also keeps you from rushing and ensures that every step of the way through the problem, what you're doing makes sense. And you might be thinking like, oh, we have the doc, so we've prepared for these type of questions before. Yeah, if you get a question like, what's your favorite marketing campaign and how would you improve it? You've practiced that on your doc, but if you get a question like, how would you improve X product or how would you change X marketing campaign, you probably wouldn't have prepared for that specific subject. Give me an idea or strategy for a ride-sharing company to attract more college students. A good thing to start out with is target audience, so I'll take note of that first. So now I'm thinking, what else do I need to consider to get closer to my final answer? And that led me to thinking of pain points with transportation. What's stopping college students from just getting across campus, getting off campus, going wherever they want? Well, they either have cars or they ride shuttles and metros with limited availability, and they also Uber. Uber's probably the best option here, but a lot of college students don't have the money or don't want to spend extra money on Ubers. So now I'm thinking, how do students afford other necessities like food, shelter, and things like that? Now, after writing that down, I'm realizing that students and their parents are very inclined to buy into school programs that can help them buy necessities in bulk and cut down on the cost overall. So just with these quick thoughts on my sheet, I already have a full-fledged answer for the question. An Uber service where college students can sign up to be riders and drivers for other students within and around the university. Students can pay with dining dollars. Students usually have leftover dining dollars anyway, and it's one of the few big expenses we usually pay for out of pocket. Whenever you have to propose something in an interview, I think it's always smart to include how you would measure success, because this shows that not only do you have good ideas, but you're able to bring them to life and you're focused on the long term, not just right now. So I'd include that we can measure success by the number of dining dollars sold every school semester, as well as the number of ride-sharing rides booked a week on campus. All I did was vocalize my thought process, write down my ideas, and now I have a full-fledged answer that makes sense every step of the way. Last tip on interview questions I'll give you is to practice market sizing questions. And these are the ones that are like, how many diapers are sold in the US per year? How many beer bottles are sold in the US per year? Things like that. Even though I've never been asked one of those questions in a marketing interview, preparing for those made me feel like nothing could surprise me and that any question they threw my way, I'd be ready to answer. So I'm not going to go over them today because they take kind of long. I'll link 3 really good examples in the description. But if you want to see me go through these and explain why they're so beneficial to your marketing interviews, comment that below and maybe I'll do a video on it. So we finished the interview questions. That was the longest part, the hardest part. Now I'm going to talk about the biggest way that you can stand out heading into an interview or application. I've always thought that having some sort of concrete, tangible project or something that you do or work on really lifts you up in a marketing application, because it shows that the things that you're passionate about or you're interested in, you're actionable and you're taking steps to insert yourself into that space and to get more experience doing whatever you love. So what I mean by this is a portfolio or YouTube channel, blog, website, business. All of these things tell the interviewer that he's creative and he's not just, a sayer or a talker that says, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm passionate about this, I'm interested in this. But you're a doer that's not waiting for the opportunity to come to you. You've created the opportunity and are going about it in your own creative way. And some people might be thinking that, they have something like this, a business or something they're working on, but they don't think it's relevant to the application or relevant to marketing. If you have a hair care brand, for example, you could talk about the process of testing different formulas to find the perfect one. You could talk about the struggles of bringing multiple different products to market. A less elaborate example, you could have a YouTube channel and talk about your journey from 0 to 1 million subscribers, what you learned building a brand. These are all really impressive things, but going into my applications, I didn't have anything like this, and I kind of felt like I seemed less creative, or that my application was kind of lacking. That's just how I felt. So feeling like that, I decided to literally make a new one, or like make a new project that I could attach to my application to talk about during my interviews. I started a series on Instagram where I began training to dunk, and I did this to prove to myself that with a plan of action, dedication, and consistency, I can achieve my goals no matter what. And it's fun. It taught me, how to video edit, how to increase my social media engagement. This stuff is all relevant to my job. It makes me seem interesting as a candidate. But most importantly, it's a concrete example of how I took action in my own creative way. I also continued to promote and write my gaming blog as well. And it was a good way for me to exercise my writing and build my website building skills. Taught me how to analyze a market. Just like my Duncan series, it's a concrete example of how I took action in my own way. Whatever your personal project is, you probably will have the opportunity to discuss it either on the application or as an answer to one of the interviewer's questions. So use this as an opportunity to show off your passion, and don't get too shy or, too in your head about showing them how interesting, different, and special you are. We finished the first 4 sections. Now I'll just cover extra tips before I close out the video. So number 1, take notes during your interview. I mentioned this earlier, but just wanted to say it again. I like to ask the interviewer first if I can take notes so they know I'm not like doing anything fishy or something. I don't know. But not only does it help you collect your thoughts, but it also just gives you extra time to think as you're writing things down. So if you're in a situation where you can't think of an answer on the spot, try writing some things down for like 20 seconds, and I'm sure something will come to you. Also note though, all of my interviews were virtual. I'm not sure how note-taking goes in in-person interviews. Second, make sure you measure success whenever you suggest something like an idea or a campaign, whether it be number of new subscribers, total revenue, number of pre-orders, downloads. Even if it's not like a metric in any way, make sure there's something you can use to measure success, because it shows that not only do you have good ideas, but you know how to see them through and make them come to life. Number 3 is ask questions for clarity. If the interviewer asks you something and you really just don't get what they mean, instead of guessing and trying to give a perfect answer without understanding the question, just take a step back, ask them what they meant by the question. Number 4 is you should follow up after every interview. LinkedIn is cool, but an email is a lot better. And even if they don't answer, it shows them that you're going the extra mile even after the interview is over. 5, I'll highlight a few things about my resume. I don't think there's a perfect approach to any resume, but I think this template works really good. I keep it nice and simple, 1 page, dates on the right, experience on the left, and then the description in the middle. But notice how in that description, I'm really specific about my experience, showing numbers. Like in the advanced digital marketing part, I'm saying my exact idea, the exact budget, and just being really clear on how I made an impact. Also, you might notice some of these are not marketing roles, because at the beginning of my collegiate career, all I could land was HR internships. So I'll let you read them for yourself, but sort of notice how even though they're HR internships in the description, I'm talking about them through a marketing lens and discussing why they would help me in a marketing role. Number 6 is getting internships. It may seem obvious, but you should definitely try to land one of these during the summer or even during the school year if you can. It's great entry-level experience where you typically don't have crazy competition. You can get paid, put it on your resume, and a lot of jobs actually just pipeline their interns into full-time roles. But a big plus about internships is just getting acclimated to working with people older than you and more experienced than you. and also building up that confidence within yourself. I also set up a link in the description for one-on-one calls. If you watched the video already, you got multiple ways to contact me and everything you need. But if you just feel like I didn't cover something in the video or you want personalized help with your situation, sign up for one. Well, that's the whole guide, y'all. It's a few days later, but appreciate you if you made it all the way through. I linked all my socials in the description, so make sure you follow those. I'll be streaming on Twitch, and on this channel, I'll still be uploading videos about just having a better life or career or whatever. And it's crazy because this is the first video I've made, even though I've been into like gaming and sports all my life. Been doing competitive gaming for like almost a decade now. But I made a marketing video before any of that stuff because I really believe that what I have to say is truly effective and it definitely can help somebody out there. I said we got to be doers and not sayers, and I couldn't find a fully comprehensive marketing application guide, so I decided to make one on my own. And in my humble opinion, as somebody who's already surveyed the field, this is by far the best marketing application guide on the internet. But no matter how you prepare in life or in these applications, it won't pay off unless you really sit down with yourself and be real about how much work you're putting in for you to reach these goals. Because before I did that, I was just constantly ignoring my shortcomings and I was never seeing progress. And it's not to say that if you don't have a job or reach your goals, it's because you're not studying hard enough, but more so like, are there things you know would help you get closer to your job or get closer to your goal that you're just not doing? And why aren't you doing them? Like, are you valuing something else above that? Or is there a reason? Are you spending too much time on your phone or like ignoring your mental health or something like that? And whatever it is that like you need to adjust to or change, it's going to take some getting used to. But it really is the reality in applications and everything else that at some point you're going to have to face that thing or change that thing if you actually want to reach that goal or be that version of yourself. But it's a blessing and a curse because that's exactly how you get ahead. It's April, maybe May when I'm posting this, so school's about to be out. So focus up, be honest about your excuses, and take the action that you know you need to. If you do that, you can walk into your interviews knowing you're the most qualified candidate because you already practiced everything they could throw your way. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see y'all later.